They're gonna kill the love of my life.
Casey!
If I don't go back to what I was doing.
Our line of work is quite brutal and quite ruthless.
How far would you go for love?
You steal truck, bring it to me. Then you make your money.
Is it dangerous?
Of course it's dangerous!
Nicholas Hoult, Felicity Jones, with Ben Kingsley and Anthony Hopkins.
All this trouble, all this pain, for love.
Collide. Now playing. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning. This is your host, Llorraine Neithardt, and you have found or discovered or are listening to or are loyal to Venus Unplugged, the virtual Heartbreak Hotel. So what we are doing here, talking about all things of the heart, of Venus, and just life, how the heart teaches, how the heart breaks, how we heal, tell stories, myths, teaching myths. So I'm a psychic in New York City, and my life has been a life of Jungian philosophies and natural psychic gifts, and I've been in service to the soul for about 29 years now. And here I am speaking. So let the world know and sign up either on my website, LorraineNeithardt.com, or on Blog Talk Radio, so you'll get the episode sent to you, or you can download it from my website. Or actually, I think they have it on iTunes also. And an announcement, all the previous, there's probably about 20 previous episodes that I did, that I actually took off of Blog Talk Radio and will be on my blog, LorraineNeithardt.com. Go to the blog, go to archives, and you've got more listening. So, what are we talking about today? What are we going through today? What are we evoking today? Today is about heart fire. Now, for those that listened to last week, I announced the great loss of my beloved cat, Faith. Her actual name is Leap of Faith, an Egyptian Mao who, from the moment I saw her, stole my heart and soul. And she suddenly departed. Needless to say, I'm heartbroken. And so what better place to be honest about being heartbroken than right here? So I've been looking at this, and when a big event like this happens in my life, certainly I don't back away. I give it all that it needs, because it's going to come back again and again and again to teach. So it's like, okay, I've got it. So this process called grief, I have no idea how long it will last. It comes and it goes. It seems as if there's a reprise, and then there's a deepening. So a few things that I wrote down and would like to share. And then I want to talk about Hestia, which is the goddess of the hearth. She's the only goddess that has no form. She's similar to one of Isis's forms, which is Hathor. Okay. But I start to realize, because we're in a death-phobic nation, and that there's no knowledge or wisdom in fear. That's probably why I want to also begin to talk about the Isis-Osiris mysteries. And that this grief gift that I'm being shown, is a form of humiliation, not shame. Humble. You're brought to your knees. The only safety is the black earth, and it brings me down and through and through the dark soil to humus, which is the etymology of the word humiliation, but it comes from earth. We're humbled, connected to the earth. No sky gods, no happy slogans, no wishful thinking. You're in it. You're in the mud of consciousness. And you're in humus and all its mysteries. And it is in this union with humus that I dare to approach the divine realm, the realm of angels, and humbly ask to be taught through sorrow. So that's what I'm up to. So for those that have suffered a loss or if you're in the presence of somebody who has a great sorrow or a loss, whatever that might be, there's no judgment on sorrow or loss or one-upmanship. Either be with them, hold and contain the energy in the silence. But they're in a very special area code. And I'm not aware of too much other than the teachings of the sorrow. So the grief and the sorrow and the heartbreak fully present, all that I think I am is no longer relevant during this dark night of the soul or journey into the underworld. And grief is the capacity for broken-heartedness. And that's what Heartbreak Hotel is about. How do we relate to this? How do we live through this? How do we see these great teachings that are constantly in our life? So I want to talk about here the feeding of the heart is fire, okay? The feeding of the heart fire that is, of course, the special concern of women. We think of the hearth as the center of the feeling life of the family, and its quality depends upon the mother. That would be Isis. That would be Hestia. The mother in each of us, whether we have physical children or no. Therefore, it is startling at first when we remember that the goddess of the hearth in ancient Greece was Hestia, a virgin. Her Roman name was Vesta, and the sacred hearth fire of the city was tended to by the Vestal virgins. This has a profound meaning for us. The central warmth of the home will be a matter of fleeting emotions, blazing up, going out, overheating, or underheating, unless the woman who tends to the hearth's fire is in touch with her own virginity. Virginity has nothing to do with sexuality. Unless she nourishes the fundamental feeling values from that part of herself which is virgin, in the ancient sense of the word, for it is originally meant she who is one in herself. Philo of Alexandria said that when a virgin lie with a man, she became a woman. But when God begins to have intercourse with the soul, she who was woman becomes virgin again. So virgin in this sense means the woman who is whole within herself. She does what she does, not to please another, not even to please herself. No power games, no trickery, no hurt feelings. She does what she does because it is true of her being. And that's also what grief demands from us. We have to be true to our being. We cannot please others. And in many ways, you begin to see things through the grief and through the compassion. You see things very clearly. And it's amazing because there's no frills or all that extra energy you need to keep your mouth shut. You either have to walk away or really keep your mouth shut, because that's what the grief does. We see clearly to these great heartbroken episodes in our life. If we can stay with the heartbrokenness and not weave some bullshit story about what it is or what it isn't, stick with the wound, heal the wound by the hearth fire in your own heart, things change. Now, to the extent that a woman has found herself as separate, one in herself, has freed her emotional life from possessions and possessiveness, to this degree only can she bring unity to the family around the hearth. And the family is also all the aspects of herself. So there's our internal family, there's our external family, there's our adopted family, there's our inherited family, there's the family of animals, and friends, loved ones. So even if she lives physically alone, the image holds. As she grows to this maturity of feeling, she will tend the hearth fire day and night, as the Vestal Virgins tended the hearth fire of the city. The virginity of the Mother of God, which is it's so thin a concept when confined to the physical plane, takes on its full and overwhelming beautiful meaning when we begin to be aware of these things in our ordinary daily lives. No woman has found a true relationship with a man or the real meaning of motherhood until she has also, to some degree, found herself consciously as virgin, one in herself. We do well to remember at this point the symbol of the holy prostitute in the ancient mysteries of women. For the conventional meaning of virginity as a refusal of sexual experience so easily creeps back into our thinking. The woman's giving of her body to the stranger in the temple brings home to us the strange paradoxical truth that a woman cannot become virgin in a conscious sense unless she is capable of a total giving of herself, body and soul, or body as well as soul. She must burn the fires of instinct and then be willing to give herself totally to the stranger, that is, where her emotions are not involved, or perhaps, as Esther Harding writes, to do the hardest thing of all for the feminine psyche is to allow herself to love with her whole being someone from whom she knows she can expect no return, no fruits. Oh, that's kind of intense. Okay. The experience of virginity is not a cold thing. It may be felt with a burning intensity at a moment when the body is on fire with unfulfilled desires, provided one is consciously aware that this desire will, if we endure and contain it, consume the demands of our consciousness while proclaiming the beauty of instinct and its validity. An experience of this nature has a kind of cleanliness and purity, which is the essence of real virginity. These things she can only do when she begins to live the symbolic life. To enter the temple and become a symbolic prostitute therein. The one who gives herself totally also to the stranger within. From it, she emerges a virgin, and the hearth fire will burn wherever she may be, and many will be warmed and strengthened thereby. None of this, however, can be possible or can possibly come about in her if she neglects her essential feminine nature. In this statement, it's like a cow-like nature, which is also the goddess Hathor, because the cow is a symbol of the Great Mother. Okay? She must produce milk, not only drink it. Through all her experiences, from virgin to woman to virgin again, she must consider and digest the green grass of her earthly experience and give the milk of her feminine warmth to all who will draw to it, not thrusting it at people, but simply letting it down at the touch of the milker's finger. There's also a myth that the Milky Way is made, the stars of the Milky Way is the milk from the Great Mother. Which is a beautiful, beautiful image. Okay. Finally, the fires of desire, of imagination, of the heart, all the lesser fires of our experience bring us to the purging fire of sacrifice. Jung has said that in some traditions, the cross is a symbol of fire, and that this may be due to the association with the rubbing of two sticks to produce fire. Primitives thought of these as masculine and feminine. They met, and the rubbing, the friction between them, brings the fire to the earth. The Christian cross is, of course, the great symbol of the fire of suffering. Whosoever is near me, is near to me, is near to the fire. It's the saying of Christ. There comes a time when it is no longer a question of tending fires or finding fuel, but of becoming ourselves the fuel, walking open-eyed into the flames. In our dreams, we find images and all the different kinds of fuel which determine the nature of the fire in our lives, the direction of all our psychic energy. Dreams of fires burning and destroying indiscriminately will tell us of the raging of the unacknowledged emotions in the unconscious. That goes for dreams of electrical dreams too, which is another form of fire. Okay, dreams of the hearth fire lit in the wrong places, or furnaces in the basement, either with flames leaking out or stone cold, warn us to look to the virginity of our feelings, our natural, whole feelings, pure, the ones that are truly ours. They don't belong to anybody else's. Dreams of fire cooking food, of the alchemical transformation, that is the process at work, candles burning steadily, awaken quiet devotion. We may see a light blazing in the darkness, illuminating, bringing consciousness, or a fire which burns a symbol, and some old attitude needs to be sacrificed. Occasionally, there comes a great dream of the fire into which we must totally, voluntarily enter in and give ourselves up. And through the images of the care of the cow, the divine feminine image of the Great Mother, all these images may be perpetuated and experienced as daily reality. Then indeed, the great sun within begins to rise and to illumine and to the four corners of the earth. And finally, we may come to know the condition of complete simplicity, of which T.S. Eliot speaks in the Four Quartets, where the fire and the rose are one. That is from Woman, Earth, and Spirit, The Feminine in Symbol and Myth, by Helen Luke. Helen Luke was an extraordinary woman of great perception, probably, in my humble opinion, one of the true, rare examples of what individuation looks like. There's also a tape, which is a sense of the sacred. So for those that want to track that down, I think that came out in like 1995 or something, to get a sense of this woman and her teachings and her exquisite perception and language of the feminine. She has this way of hinting at, of suggestion, no hammer and nail, that this is what it is. So she's written probably about 5 books. One of her most important books was From the Dark Woods to the White Rose, which is it talks about a man's individuation process through Dante's Inferno. Or another one is The Feminine Story. She was quite an amazing, and she didn't begin writing till in her 60s. She's English. She was one of the early students of when the Jungian school began, and she also was a very dear friend of Robert Johnson, which is another man of my heart. He wrote He, She, and We, and a slew of marvelous, marvelous books. Robert Johnson is very, very disarming because he writes like 99 pages. I reread all his books every year. And each time it's like, wow, I didn't get that. And usually I'm pretty good with that stuff. But it's condensed and exquisite and simple. But he sucks you over the head with deep insight. So those are some writers, Helen Luke and Robert Johnson, which I think you would enjoy tremendously. So we're talking of the heart fire. So what can we do with that? What can that task be? The task can be simply to burn a candle for your own heart, for the things of your heart, for the things that you want cleansed, let go of, brought into, because when the ancients mythologically, okay, well, you could say that, talk about the hearth, the flame, and Hestia. Hestia is the only goddess that is asked to come into all the great talks and quabbles and conferences of the gods because she is so fair and she is so just. She's the only goddess that comes in the flame. She has no other image. There are times when I'm doing something around the house and I'll call on her because she makes, what happens when she enters, it's like when you're working with her and you call on her, each task is the only task. It's amazing with the precision, with the love, as if you were a Vestal Virgin tending to the importance of the fire. And for those of you that are involved in shamanism, you know the power of fire and all that means. So light a candle, call on Vesta, okay, to help you and to guide you. And what begins to happen is in that simplicity of just doing the one task, because that's what she's about. She's not about like, and let's get to the next one and let's get this all done. It's about tending to, or tending to the heart fires. I'm tending to my broken heart. And I will tend to it as long as it needs. Because that is the act of sacrifice and understanding. All right. And so if we're doing something around the house, you can feel her. What happens is she... So that can be a hard task, to call on her, or you can call on her in the form of the cow, which is Hathor. in the Egyptian imagery. Hathor is kind of equivalent to the Venus. So these are all interrelated, as is the feminine. And of course, the most profound, okay, when they say she's a virginal goddess, she does, and this is why she's asked to come in, because she's got no dog in that fight. She's fair. As a matter of fact, she gave up her throne to Dionysus because she was just busy being Hestia. Fair, non-judgmental. Simple wisdom, earthly wisdom, the wisdom of the truly humble person, which is lost on most people. Because if there's no fanfare or lawsuits or carrying on, the humble person very often is seen as an idiot or a moron or a fool. But they just don't have a dog in that fight. They're not interested in being right or being wrong. They're just more interested in being. And at this time, after these last transits, I mean, everybody is in, if they're breathing and have even a little bit of consciousness, is really looking at some serious transformational stuff, serious stuff within themselves that they need to get rid of, cherish habits, like being right, and, but having no heart. Who cares if you're right? But you say it so righteously that you destroy bonds in order to be right. Not cool. Burn that shit up. You don't need that. And that's part of what the heartbrokenness can give us. Not pity and sentimentality, which is a waste. And for those that listen to the Psyche and Eros chapters, which are now on the blog, my blog, realize, Psyche had to give up sentimentality and pity. It was ruining her. We give it up. Because there aren't really full emotions. They're like, people hurry up and forgive. But they never explain what they're forgiving, and they jump to that because they want to be good. And that's a trap, that goodness trap. Good isn't always right. We want to be in right relation. But a lot of times the woman who is virgin, who's one within herself, she's not into being good or not good. She's into being true. And it's just not true of her being. It's like eating foods that you're allergic to please somebody. So these are great teachings, and we are in the midst of it. I mean, there is a huge acceleration going on. There's also something I want to mention, too, on the face of Valentine's Day is going to be absolutely changed. This February 14th, 2014, because there is it's called V-Day, and it's called A Billion Rising, and it is a movement to have 1 billion people rise against rape, child marriages, crimes against women and the feminine. Could you imagine? 1 billion people thinking the same thought. That is going to shift stuff. So start thinking about it. And you can go on V-Day and sign up, or just write it in next year's calendar that not only are you going to do chocolates and hot red shoes, but wild and abandoned thoughts of 1 billion rising and saying no to the rape of the feminine. So as much as we're being brought down, we are also waking up. So next week, same time, same place, you want to call for a reading, 212-757-8914, and check out Robert Johnson and Helen Luke. Bye-bye.